Well, kia ora and kia rana and bonjour, everybody. Just wave to me to let me know that you can hear me. Great, because I've been participating, singing along, listening, and to know that you can actually hear me when I need to be heard is a good thing as well. Just to remind us, make our mission in this, as part of the General Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, is to make disciples of Jesus Christ who live as his loving witnesses and proclaim to all people the everlasting gospel of the three angels' messages in preparation for his soon return. And that includes Wallace and Fortuna and Pitcairn and South New Zealand and everything in between that we've talked about here today. And we have a vision in the South Pacific Division that we will be a thriving Adventist movement. That's how we started. That's how we'll finish. And that's how we want to be now, where we live our hope in Jesus. And I noticed that we are going to endure in the NZPUC with our hope in Jesus, and will transform the Pacific. And we also have a purpose statement, and that is to inspire hope and wholeness of life in our communities. That's the impact we want to make on the people that we connect with. And with charities reporting, we need to report on our purpose. The SPD has been working on our vision, mission, and purpose, and putting a plan behind it. And we've gathered people from all over the division to look at a division-wide strategic plan. Now, we've done division-wide strategic plans before, but it's basically been done by people out of the office at 148 Fox Valley Road, Wahroonga. But this time we're focused on getting reps from every union and institution. And you can see we do our business there in the strategy house in the area of church ministry, community development, health and lifestyle, education, people and culture, communication and media, and governance and administration. And I noticed that NZPUC has basically followed the same plan, but your house is much nicer with all the Maori carvings. And I want to say well done to the adaptation of that strategic plan. But the whole focus is that we fulfill our vision and mission, which is to become a multiplying disciple-making movement. And I've seen in some of the reports that you know that whenever you want to see something multiply and grow, you have to make preparation for the seed of the idea or the seed of the gospel to be sown. So you prepare the soil, you sow the seed, you cultivate the idea, the person who has received the gospel, you care for them, and then we harvest them, but God brings the increase. And we'll see that in the reports, the secretary's reports and numbers, but I've been blessed by the reports so far. And we become a disciple who is someone who in every way is becoming more like Jesus Christ. And that's almost taken directly from Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 15. I want you to become more like Jesus. I want to become more like Jesus. And I think if we would be disciples that would turn the world upside down. One of the areas that I heard some of the reports mention about the World Changer Bibles, and I think it was Pastor Eric in the Cook Islands. These Bibles are having incredible impact all around the division. And these group of people are in the CPIC, which is the far west of Papua New Guinea. And they've just received World Changer Bibles, and you can see that they're pretty excited and they are into their own study. One of their, the leaders of the youth in that area, Pastor Misikaram Guna, he would pick people that he saw as leaders in the community and say, I'd like to give you a Bible and train you how to use the Bible. And then if you can go back into your community and make a difference, well, then we'll supply the community with Bibles so that they can go out and make a difference as well. Well, he would pick people who were on the border of just giving up drugs. He's picked people who were Catholics and given them Bibles, and they've all ended up being Seventh-day Adventist missionaries. And these are the pictures that he sent me recently of some of the groups of people in that mission who are, started new groups in completely new churches in new areas amongst new people using the World Changer Bible. And so it's a really exciting project. One of the other focuses we have is mission to the cities. And we have 20-something projects in 6 cities in Australia. 5 cities in Australia. The 6th city is Auckland, and Auckland does not have a mission to the cities project yet. And so I'm going to challenge the new president there, Pastor Bob Larson, and I saw all your delegates stand up, 30-something of you, to that we as, through the General Conference and the division, we can help fund new centres of influence, new innovative, creative projects to reach new people groups. And Auckland is one of the targeted cities, and we'd love to see that happen. Nothing happens without leadership. And this, in the strategic plan, we discovered that one of our big needs was to keep developing leadership. We've heard about the challenge of sometimes a rotating workforce. And so we want a God-centered leadership who know how to lead by example, who can communicate effectively, empower and grow others, innovate and think strategically, and create impact. That's the core of our new strategic plan. And there are the behaviours that we want to see people have in those particular areas, which we've talked about. And really, all leaders need to be able to lead themselves, then lead others, lead organisations, and then, because we're a division and we have different entities, to lead across cultural and organisational boundaries. And so we want to grow people, whether they be teachers, nurses, accountants, or pastors. They're the main areas, but there will be other areas as well. And we've got a process of learning on the job, coaching, and then training. And this is a pilot program for those who have been particularly chosen to accelerate their learning and leadership, but we're focusing on that for everybody. And if you don't know what it's about and you like a picture, well, this is what we're trying to do: create disciple-making leaders who inspire hope and wholeness of life in their communities. And there's the system of making it happen. This New Zealand Pacific Union conference is the 3rd constituency meeting in the last few months. We've had the Trans-Pacific Union Mission and the Papua New Guinea Union Mission constituency meetings at the end of last year. And there were lots of personnel changes, and that's why developing leadership will be a real challenge for us in this coming quinquennium, although it's already started. But you know with the changes of COVID what that has meant. A lot of people ask when I'm doing my Zoom traveling, and that's about all I'm doing at the moment, although this week I will for the first time travel to South Australia, barring the border staying open, and doing a regional meeting and pastors' meetings there. But people ask about how is the church going with finances? Well, if you trust the Lord, he will deliver. And this is the comparative tithe for our division. And you'll notice that the Australian Union has tithe has gone up. The New Zealand Union is static, just a little lower. Papua New Guinea Union has gone down, and the Trans-Pacific Union up. So overall a 2.7, if you can see the bottom right-hand corner, growth in tithe, which has been really good. And our tithe return to the General Conference has gone up because it has to, because North America is asked to be on parity with everybody else. And that's happening. But I do want to show you one of the challenges. And it doesn't matter which number you see there, offerings through Sabbath school have declined by about 29%. Now, this concerns me a little because we've become, in lockdown, I think we've become consumers of media, and some have not re-engaged in groups and haven't re-engaged in giving through Sabbath school. And why is the Sabbath school offering important? Basically, it runs the World Mission Program for the General Conference. And so all of the missionaries that are sent to the areas of challenge and need throughout our world are funded by our Sabbath school offerings. And when they're down, it creates challenges for the General Conference. However, some good news, the annual sacrifice offerings in Australia and New Zealand went up this year. So God's people have been faithful in the pandemic, in tithe and in particular offerings. But just giving you some examples as well, Hope Channel's offerings are down a little. Adventist World Radio offerings are up, and they did a whole lot of good marketing. So, and then mission offerings generally to the General Conference are down. And that's where I would be challenging us as delegates, as faithful disciples of Jesus who are part of the Adventist Church in the New Zealand Pacific Union, to model and to be generous in our offerings that way. For world mission through Sabbath school. And then General Conference offerings through the one basket system. The Cook Islands have had an increase, French Polynesia and New Cal decrease. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that our stewardship department at nearly the last department at the South Pacific has got lots of things to help us in that area of our discipleship. And I know that your team there at NZPUC through Victor will be able to help you. But you notice that it's in many languages, Samoan, Tongan, Bislama, Fijian, and French. So that's reflecting our diverse area. And if you can't participate because of various lockdowns, because we never know what COVID's going to do again, please remember that the e-giving app saves the church treasurer as well. And I would encourage you to either use the website or the app, and it's www.egiving. Which is there, .org.nz, and that's for those in New Zealand. And for those who have been faithful and generous, we do want to say well done. I just want to finish off with the story, and it's related to health, and I'm focusing on the areas that we are focusing on as a division. In Nandi, there's a number of villages, and that's on the west coast of Fiji, where the international airport is, and Fulton College new campus, Sembeto, is not far away. And some of those villages are Adventist and some are not, and some don't want Adventists. And there was one particular village who was not really interested in Adventists, but George Kwong, who is now the new health director for the Trans-Pacific Union Mission, he was a layperson, business person working in health in the Nandi area. And he was training up people, and they were going from village to village and doing 10,000 toes research. And that is trying to find out whether people were diabetic or pre-diabetic, and if they had some challenges, obviously sending them to the doctors, but then also being willing to provide intervention programs of health to help them. And one particular village didn't want much to do with the Adventists, but they heard that the other villages were finding it really helpful, and that their health was improving because they had the Adventists come in and do the interventions. And this particular village had a contract because the land on which a very famous American fast food restaurant was there had an agreement. They were on their traditional land, and the chief and his village and his family could eat at that restaurant for free every day. Now, the village chief died at age 50 something. The next eldest person was his daughter to be the next chief. She died in her late 30s, and then the next chief was a younger lady in her 30s, and you see her there. And she said, I wonder, is it our lack of health that is killing off my family, and I don't want to be next. So she invited George Kwong in, and they did the intervention. And through that intervention, she as chief has told her family they are no longer to eat at that fast food American restaurant, even though the food is free. And that shows the power of good health, and the 10,000 Toes campaign, which is going like wildfire in 2 countries of the Pacific, Solomon Islands and in Fiji, trying to reduce type 2 diabetes and saving people's toes. Thanks for the opportunity to share. And then now Rod Brady will share on the General Conference and a little bit of what's happening around the world. Thanks, Rod.
Okay, and thank you, Glenn, for that comprehensive report. I'll just share a few brief things to do with the General Conference and what's happening around the world at the moment. Glenn shared with you some of what's happening in the SPD strategy. The General Conference actually has a strategy for the whole world called I Will Go, and it's a strategy that we've plugged into. We've pulled elements of it into our strategy, but what they're looking to do is to inspire and equip members worldwide. Some parts of the world and some divisions aren't as blessed as what we are to have the resources and personnel to assist like happens in SPD. But what they're looking at in the mission objectives is they're wanting to revive the concept of worldwide mission. And that's a real challenge for us as a church as we're growing when you think what's happening all around the world. Also, they're really wanting to strengthen the work in the cities, because we've been looking for a number of years at how many people now are moving into the cities from rural areas. And as has been said, in our part of the world, we're targeting cities. But it's interesting, when you look at the 7 of the 10 largest cities in the world, they're all in that 1040 window. And that's where we are weakest as a church. If you take somewhere like Tokyo, that's got 40 million people, which is approximately the whole of the population within the South Pacific division. So you can imagine from Australia to PNG across to French Polynesia, we actually have a little less than 40 million. And Tokyo's got that all in one city. They've actually got in that city just 2,300 church members. So you put that into our terms and think if all through the South Pacific division, we only had 2,300 members, the way that we would think and need to operate. So that's sort of the magnitude of what the challenges are in the cities, and General Conference is trying to assist. It's been said they're assisting cities in the South Pacific as in other areas to be more effective in reaching and getting resources, because many of those areas have got non-Christians, and it's an area that we need to do more work in identifying and working with the non-Christians of the world, the different religious groups, and the General Conference has set up study centres in those parts of the world. So within the plan of the General Conference, they are looking at spiritual objectives, leadership objectives, as I said, that we are plugging into. And it's good that they have a plan. They've been working on it early and engaging parts of the world, and SPD is no different to that. They've also set up KPIs, which is very helpful. And if you're interested, you can go on the GC websites and you can find the details of the plan, and you'll be able to see how it flows through to SPD. The big question a lot of people have got in the world church at the moment, what is the impact of COVID? And we still don't know the full impact of COVID, both positive and negative on the church worldwide. I know in the different forums that we meet with fellow leaders and executive committee members, we do see that the church outside of SPD has been impacted far worse than we have. We've had many churches closed. If you look at the General Conference office itself, it really hasn't been functioning for about 11 months with people in the office. Most of the staff hadn't even seen each other for 10, 11 months. So it's a very different world. Churches, some of those places in America, some of the churches haven't operated for most of last year in other parts of the world. So we are seeing a very fragmented church. What the impact on growth is what we're all waiting to see. Normally, the church has got used to having well over 1 million members a year join through baptism. What we're all waiting for is the final statistics to see what happens last year, whether that will be maintained, increased or decreased. And as we hear stories, it could go either way. So that's a number to watch. The whole world will be watching what will be the baptism numbers for 2020. As a result, many of you will have picked up that the GC session has been delayed until 2022, which you can imagine in the life of the church, the 5-year cycle will become a 7-year cycle. So the effect on leadership changes, governing bodies, and our division itself will be in a couple of weeks' time just looking at how we relate to that with our cycles. As was mentioned, the GC offerings that are coming from all around the world from our division are down. While we're down about 30% in giving to the General Conference, we are one of the best divisions in maintaining the rate of it. Many other divisions are down by far more. When we look at tithe around the world, we've probably got the highest increase in tithe of any division, which with that 2.7%. Most divisions are down between about 2 and 10% in tithe. And some of the ones in less developed areas are down far more. There are some unions in the world that are down 80% in tithe. Offerings around the world have universally been impacted, many far worse than in the SPD because of the effect on Sabbath school and closures. People are programmed around tithe, but we have shown up our dependency on things like Sabbath school to be in-person meetings. The magnitude of what that means to the General Conference, when it's all translated around the world on Sabbath school and their world offerings, they're expecting it could be about a $25 to $30 million shortfall in 2020, and concern as to what that'll be in 2021. They do have reserves and funds and have been doing expenditure cuts to maintain that for a couple of years. So we're really hoping that COVID doesn't last, otherwise it will really have a deep impact on the church. One of the things that is really impacting the world church is connectedness, because people can't travel. Our leadership models of having leaders circulate across areas, come together for conventions, world events, regional events is being impacted. And that with the COVID is the danger of us now is becoming very narrow in our thinking, not global. One of the things the General Conference has done to try and encourage the global vision of the church is in May this year, they are planning to have a virtual camp meeting. So you can imagine for many areas of the world that have been in lockdown, some still not meeting, this will be a very special time for our membership to get together on a global basis. We've seen some snippets of what the software may look like, some of the ways it may interact with conferences and things like that. There'll be potentially exhibits and all sorts of things like a real camp meeting. We're still getting the details of that coming through, but the dates will be May 10 to 23 this year. It's around the same time as what the General Conference had been planned for. And I think we'll all be fascinated to see what it's going to be like to be part of that global community. And this is one of the opportunities that COVID's given us, is to open up what can be done virtually. So just watch out for that. There'll be more coming. You'll see it come through Glenn and The Record and others promoting that. But it's in its stages now of planning towards those dates, and different areas will be asked to contribute to it, music, speakers or whatever. So it's going to be a very special time, I think. In times where it does get tough, we do see people rise to the occasion, and it'll be quite an exciting time in May. So Eddie and Glenn, that's just a short update.